Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. We will start with an opening statement from Coach, and then we will start with Mark Brennan.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys for covering Penn State football like you always do. I want to thank the fans for coming out. I guess we announced it was 7,500 fans or somewhere in that ballpark. After last season, it felt like 75,000. It really felt good to be in there with our freshman students and our parents. It was really good work for us. Obviously, there's a lot of things that we got to get cleaned up, but being back in the stadium, I thought was a real positive for us, and we'll build on that. I would go out here and say this. Obviously, being in that stadium felt great. I can't imagine what it will be to get back to what we've been averaging the 2 years before the pandemic. I think we averaged 106,000 fans for those 2 years. And, whatever we have to do to get that stadium back full. And that's for our community. That's for the state of Pennsylvania. That's for our university. That's for the athletic department. And obviously that's for our football program. So anybody that's comfortable getting a vaccine, let's get the vaccine so we can get as many people into the stadium as we possibly can and try to get back to normal. So, again, we appreciate everybody. Open up to questions.
We'll start with Mark Brennan, and Nubias Wilborn, you're next.
James, thanks for your time.
Hey, Mark, could you guys turn that up a little bit? I can't really hear.
You got me now?
Yes, I do. Hey, Mark.
Hey, just on a housekeeping thing, can you tell us how many practices you have left? And on a broader perspective, can you address the progress the offense has made under Mike this spring and how far away it is from where it needs to be for the opener? Thanks.
Yeah, so this was practice number 12 for us. We have 15 practices every spring. That's what the NCAA allows you. So we'll get all 15 in. I think we've made great progress. I mean, obviously there's a bunch of things that we still got to get cleaned up operationally, assignment-wise, but we've gotten a lot in. We're doing a bunch of different things that are challenging for our defense. It's a great battle between our offense and defensive personnel every single day because it's not only what you do on offense, it's all the different looks that you have to prepare for as well from our defense and vice versa. So, I think we've laid a really good foundation. These next 3 practices will be important because we've been heavy install pretty much for 12 practices. This will allow us these last 3 to kind of go back and refine some of the finer details. And then I think the thing I've always felt is, the run game is something that you'd like to leave the spring feeling good about because it's hard to make improvements in that before you get back to training camp. But the passing game, there's a lot of things you can work on your own, the rest of the spring and the summer. So I like where we're at, but there's still plenty of work to be done.
Nubias Wilborn, and then we'll go to Corey Geiger.
Hey, James, thanks for the time, and it was good to see some people in here. My first time seeing people in here.
Yeah, it was unreal, Nubias. It was unreal. Felt great.
Yeah, man. Then from there, you mentioned you have 3 practices left. When are those, and what do you think about your quarterbacks?
Yeah, so it's our normal schedule. So I think we'll go again on Monday. We'll go again on Wednesday, and then we're going to go on Friday. That's how we had it normally. That's how we had it scheduled. So we'll go Friday, probably Friday night, because I always like to get some practices in the spring as well as in summer camp under the lights, because I think that's another thing to get used to. And then, that'll allow our guys to finish up strong academically and have the weekend to prepare for exams or whatever else they got coming up. So, obviously the quarterback work is important. I think Sean's done some really good things this spring. I think, Mike has really been impressed from what I've seen in terms of Sean's approach. It's really important to Sean. He works really hard at it. He prepares like you're supposed to prepare. And then you got 2 somewhat inexperienced guys that need 1,000 reps. I'm sorry, 3 inexperienced guys that need 1,000 reps. So, we'll be smart these next 3 practices. We'll have a plan from now till summer camp. and then have a very specific plan for summer camp as well, so that, when we open our first game, that we're ready to be hitting on all cylinders. But, so far so good.
Corey Geiger and then Rich Scarcella.
James, you have spoken so highly of Kailin King. Can you specify just one or two things that made him so ready for today and this spring?
Well, I think a couple things. He is physically ready. He's a guy that's come in and is already physically developed from a weight standpoint and from a strength standpoint. He's also a very mature. Him and his twin brother, both very mature. They know how to prepare. They know how to compete. They know how to work. They go to one of the most successful high school programs in the United States, Cas Tech, that I think had them prepared on the level of competition that they play in a really good league in Detroit. And then on top of that, he's got ball skills. You want to recruit guys that can play both sides of the ball. He's got tremendous confidence, in his talents, and he's got ball skills. And I know this sounds strange, and I know this sounds funny, but he's made some great plays on the ball. But some guys like him, the ball just likes them. Like he's gotten a couple interceptions where you just throw it to him. And we had a guy, a few years back. That was very similar that played for us, and the ball just likes them. They get a number of turnovers by making great plays, and they get a number that the ball just tips up and lands in their hands or just thrown to them by a misread. He's one of those guys. Part of it is he's always around the ball, and I think he's got a pretty good understanding of what we're asking him to do from a scheme perspective. But you just continue to see what you guys saw today isn't new. We've seen it all spring.
Rich Scarcella and then Audrey Snyder.
Hey, James.
Hey, Rich.
What have been your impressions today and throughout spring of Kevon Lee and your offensive line?
You said this spring. He's muted. Yeah, but did he say this spring and last spring, or just this spring?
Hold on.
Could you unmute him, please?
Yep, I'm working on it.
Okay. Today, your impressions of Lee and the offensive line today and this spring.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, Kevon is your, typical 237 power back in the Big Ten that is always running north-south. Me and Mike were talking about it the other day, and Jaywan, he's the guy that you look at the end of the game and you think he played pretty good, but he's got 115 yards and 2 touchdowns because he's just north-south, and he's always falling forward. So a run that's supposed to be 4 yards, he gets 6. A run that's supposed to be 5 yards, he gets 7. He's that type of back, and he's got really good vision. And I think he's doing a better job of understanding who he is. It was times last year where he would try to bounce things, and that's not really who he is, at least at this stage. Now he'll bounce a thing, but as soon as he bounces his read, he sticks his foot in the ground. It gets back north-south again. So I think he's had a nice spring. I think the offensive line has really done some nice things overall this spring. We'll have to watch the tape from today. I thought Brent, like he always does, did a pretty good job of overloading the box to make some of the run situations challenging, and that's where we were able to have some success getting the ball on the perimeter in some of the RPO type plays. But pleased. I think Trout's got that group really headed in the right direction, and Mike Miranda and Rashid have done a great job from a leadership perspective.
Audrey Snyder, then Dave Jones.
James, along the lines of wanting to have guys who can play both sides of the ball, we saw Marquis Wilson at receiver today. When did you guys make that switch? And also, I didn't see Jair Brown today. How has he done this spring, and is everything okay there?
Yeah, so with Marquis is a guy that we've been really talking about since we recruited him about the possibility of playing both ways. Kind of my philosophy is, once you really have established yourself on one side of the ball, that I'm open to discussing, playing both ways. KJ wasn't happy about it. KJ came up to me because he thought he should have played DB. I told him if he came back that last year, we would have. But with Marquis, it's partly that, but it's also Marquis has got great ball skills. He's got tremendous confidence in himself. And we're looking for a few more playmakers at the wide receiver position. So we made this change about a week ago. It's something we've probably been discussing for about a week and a half. And then we made the change, brought Marquis in. We don't ever tell a kid where to go, but we bring him in and talk about what we're thinking and see if he's open to it. And he was awesome. He's still figuring it out right now, but he's already shown some flashes in practice and done some really good things. So we'll continue to build there. I also think, the Kailin King's development and Johnny Dixon coming in, we feel like we got pretty good depth at the corner position, so it allowed us some flexibility. That factored into it. And then Tig was not available today, from a health perspective, and as you know, we'll leave it at that.
Dave Jones, and then we will go to Tyler Donahue.
James, do you think there's anything intrinsically that gives a team confidence when they have bookend tackles? Walker and Wallace seem to be a possibility of that happening this year.
Yeah, Dave, I agree with you. I think, to me, and I don't want this to come off the wrong way, but to me, if you got two tackles you have a lot of confidence in, and you have a center inside that you have a lot of confidence in from a communication standpoint, from an experience standpoint, that's where you'd like to start and build from. Not that the guards aren't important, they are critically important, but you'd love to have a center and two bookend tackles to maybe help some inexperienced guards, from a communication standpoint, from a call perspective, and to help those guys kind of develop and grow. We also have some guards that we think very highly of as well. So, but I do think your point is a good one. You want to feel really good about your two guys on the edges and protecting the quarterback's blind side or his throwing arm. And then to be able to have experience like we have with Miranda at center, we feel really good there.
Final two questions, Tyler Donahue, then T. Frank.
Hi, James. You've talked a lot about the importance of going into a season, not just with the starting quarterback, but with a defined backup quarterback who's ready to win you games. Do you feel like you found that guy this spring? And how would you assess what you saw from Taquan and Christian today?
Yeah, I think, it's hard to say that when you have guys that haven't played significant game reps. It's hard to say that you feel that way because you never know until guys get in there. And that's why I think being in Beaver Stadium today was important for us, because it's different. It's different than being out there at the practice fields at Lash. So, we'll try to do this again next Friday night. I think that'll be important for us as well. But both Taquan and Christian both show some really good flashes of understanding what we're trying to do, how to operate the offense the way Mike wants it run. And then also, the ability to make some plays and have the vision to read a defense and then deliver a throw. And, Taquan, this spring has probably had as many, of those kind of wow throws as anybody. Sean's had a bunch of them. Taquan's had a bunch of them, and Christian has as well. So, but until you get that experience, it's hard to say, that you feel great until they've done it. That's why, you look at some of those backup quarterbacks in the NFL that, they're the backup and they can come in and win a game. Those guys play in the NFL for a long time because they've gone into games and show that they can get the job done. So, we got some work to do there, but we feel really good about our guys, and we feel really, really good about the guy coaching them.
Last question, I'll go to Thomas Frank Carr.
Hey, James, are you still looking for an explosive? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, T. Frank.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, man.
Good. Are you still looking for an explosive element to your running game? You mentioned Kevon Lee's consistency, knowing who he is. Are you still looking for that dynamic punch to the 1-2 punch?
Yeah, and that's part of the running back. Whether it's Kevon breaking tackles to create those explosive plays, and he runs better than you think, to be honest with you. Just you don't think that way when you got a 237-pound back. But we got a bunch of backs that we think that can provide that. And that's part of the backs either breaking tackles or making people miss. That is the O-line and tight ends creating space for those explosive plays. And then it's also through scheme, and that's what RPOs are all about, and what Mike calls the TTOs, which are like the triple option type things, where you're putting people in conflict and creating space that way by making people defend 53 and a third. So the explosive plays in the run game will come kind of through all those things,
Thank you very much, Coach.
Awesome. Once again, we appreciate everybody. Have a great weekend. Thanks for coming out and covering Penn State football. See you guys.